Okay, good evening, members of the public, staff, and welcome to the January 17th, 2022 Committee of Adjustment meeting. And I have someone call the meeting to order. Moved by Councillor Lang, second by Deputy Mayor Jaworski. All those in favor? Meeting has been called to order. I just wanted to make a note that Councillor McDonnell sends his regrets. The roads are slippery today, and he didn't think that he'd be able to make it in time. Approval of the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Lang, second by Deputy Mayor Jaworski. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Approval of the minutes of the December 6th meeting. Are there any additions, deletions? Okay, seeing none, can I get a mover to approve those minutes? Moved by Deputy Mayor Jaworski, second by Councillor Lang. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5A0122. Hagan, Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, are you able to see my full screen now?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. So good evening, everyone. We do have some rules of engagement this evening. For members of the public that are participating by Zoom or by phone, you will be permitted to speak to the respective application following my presentation. Prior to speaking, please state your name and address for the record. To make a comment, you're welcome to use the raise hand function and the chair will call on you. If you have registered to participate in the meeting by phone, you will be asked if you would like to comment on the application after the applicable presentation. I am required now to read wording under the Ontario Planning Act. This is a hearing under section 44 of the Ontario Planning Act. Any person may attend this hearing and make written or verbal representation either in support of or in opposition to the proposed minor variance. If a person or public body does not make oral or written submissions at this hearing before the minor variance is decided upon, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the minor variance of the Committee of Adjustment to the Ontario Land Tribunal, also known as OLT. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a hearing or make written submissions to the Committee of Adjustment before the minor variance is decided upon, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the OLT unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So we only have one application on the agenda this evening. It's known as A0122. And this property is located at part of Lot 31, Concession 5, in the geographic township of Lancaster, specifically located at 20730 Concession 5. This is a key map that shows the location being on the south side of the county road. And the reason for the application this evening is the subject property is currently developed containing 2 single detached dwellings and accessory structures. A building permit was issued for the second dwelling in 2019. At that time, it was the intention of the property owner to tear down the original farmhouse and build a new house. And that allowed 2 septic systems to be on the property with 2 dwellings. And the subject property is approximately 25 acres. This is a photo that was taken on January 7th, 2022. You can see the original home in the front, and then the newer home is in behind. And then I do have an aerial view that shows the original dwelling towards the top of the screen. And then you can see actually the construction occurring at the time this aerial photo was taken that shows the location of the second dwelling. Again, the reason for the application this evening is because the applicant has changed his mind and realized that the original dwelling on the property was not in that bad a shape, had decent tenants, and was looking to see if there was any way he could have permission to keep both of the dwellings. So of course we offered this process to the applicant because the new dwelling was a little larger than the primary dwelling. So the purpose of the minor variance this evening is a second dwelling was built on the subject property with the intent to demolish the primary dwelling. The applicant wishes to keep both dwelling units. However, the second dwelling unit has a larger gross floor area than the primary dwelling unit, which is not permitted. Therefore, the following relief is requested: to permit the secondary dwelling unit to have a gross floor area of 2,239.2 square feet, where the primary dwelling unit has a gross floor area of 1,159 square feet. I'm now going to explain the difference in the square footage. So this is a drawing that was provided to us by the applicant that shows the existing square footage of the original dwelling or the primary dwelling. And then in this application, this is the basement plan. And this home is actually a walkout. So you've got living space on the basement floor as well as on the main floor. And then this would be the main floor living space. So I'm just going to go back to the original. You can see the basement, the staircase, the screened-in porch. And then on the main floor, so kind of the second floor at the back of the dwelling, you can see all the living space on the main floor, including the screened-in porch. So that's what makes this home to be arrived at over 2,000 square feet. So the property is designated agricultural resource in the official plan, and the application conforms to the general intent of the official plan. And that's because secondary dwelling units are permitted anywhere in the municipality in any designation and any zone, with the exception of limited services residential zones. And the property is zoned agriculture, and it does conform to the general intent of the zoning bylaw as it is permitted in the agricultural zone. The application was circulated to applicable municipal staff, and planning and building have no concerns with this application. They know that both homes can exist okay on the property. They're serviced by their own septic systems. As I mentioned, the newer home's been issued by a building permit. They also have occupancy to occupy that dwelling. We also circulated the application to the United Counties Transportation Department, and they had no concerns or objections to the application at all. To date, I've not received any communication from the public, no phone calls or any written correspondence at all. And that's all I have to offer.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Haley. I think this is a shining example of how the changes to the provincial policy statement are affecting, people, especially in larger lands that there's two dwellings now. So I think this is good. I'll permit Mr. Hagan to speak if he would choose to, if he wants to add some comments to the record. If you could unmute yourself.
I think just to remind him to use *6. Oh, good. Okay.
Yep.
Johnny here. Can you hear me?
Yes, if you could state your name and your address for the record.
Yeah, it's Johnny Hagan here. I live at 20730 Concession 5 Green Valley.
Okay.
And I'm the owner of the two homes that we're discussing.
Okay.
Anyways, I don't really have much to say. I just kind of want to keep the second house, and I always actually intended to keep the second house. It's just at the time when I applied for my building permit, the only option I had to be able to build before winter was to just apply for the demolition permit so that I could get the building permit because I wanted to build before the frost set in. And then when I applied for all that, I did discuss with the township that there could be a minor variance set up because I did know at that time that my house would be slightly bigger because of a attached garage and a screened-in patio. And my intentions was to always just apply for the minor variance after. I never really intended to tear the place down because I've had the same tenants there for 10 years. They've been very good with me. And anyway, so that's why I'm in the process of applying to be able to keep it. That's pretty much all I got to say.
Okay, no worries. Are there any questions or comments of committee members? Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Warden. I just wanted Ms. Haley to just explain again, why is it that we have this guidance that we want the secondary dwelling to be smaller than the primary dwelling? What's the logic behind that?
Sure, that's an excellent question. So you may recall when we developed this bylaw in 2018, and at that time we followed provincial guidance where it was recommended that the primary home always be the primary dwelling, the larger dwelling of the two, although the guidelines allow you to be flexible. So there was municipalities that had caps on the sizes of the houses. And what our council had decided was that we would be flexible and just say that the primary had to be larger than the secondary. So for example, if you had a 1,200 square foot home, your secondary could be 1,199 square feet, where we had some communities that would cap it at 1,000 square feet, things like that. So for the most part, it's worked. Generally, you don't want your secondary dwelling to be larger than the primary. In some instances and examples that we have, it's difficult to sell a property with 2 homes. You have to find the perfect buyer who can afford to purchase 2 homes. Also, it could be difficult to get a mortgage on that second dwelling if the individual looking for the mortgage doesn't own the land beneath it. And as you may recall, when these guidelines came out from the province, there was no rule as to who could occupy the home. It was really intended for a couple of reasons. One, aging in place was a term that was used that, you know, could accommodate an aging family member or allowing an aging family member to stay in their existing dwelling, a new family member to come along and stay in the new home, or even affordable housing. So affordable housing that would help individuals pay their mortgage or a cheaper place to rent. So that was kind of the logic behind it. I mean, we could change our policy, but we'd want to really look at that to see what the positive and negative impacts would be to the individual applicants or property owners. And so right now, if you need to be a little larger, then you have the opportunity to go through the variance process. And as you know, this is our second variance we've received application so far.
Thank you. If I may, Mayor Warden, just a supplemental on that. Yeah, I think, so I appreciate very much what you've explained. And it sounds like in this scenario, essentially the primary residence where the owner of the land is going to be living will actually be the newer home, the larger home. And it sounds like the original home, looks like the original home was quite small to start with. And I think this might be a perfect example of a scenario that maybe we should, if we do look at this bylaw and reconsider, that this is a very good example where perhaps the way we have it written doesn't necessarily make sense, particularly when the original house is so small. So thank you very much for that additional information.
Okay, Councillor Lang.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, no questions. I will just put forward a motion to accept this.
Okay, can I get will you second that, Deputy Mayor Jaworski?
Yeah,
okay.
I'll second that.
All right, so moved by Councillor Lang, second by Deputy Mayor Jaworski, that the A01-22 be approved as presented. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. So that's it. Thank you very much for attending, Mr. Hagan. And Ms. Haley, item 6, next meeting Monday, February the 7th.
I believe I will have 1 application, and that's turning out to be a busy evening. We have a public meeting scheduled at 6 for 2 zoning amendments and a plan of subdivision. So if we do have 1, it'll be at 5:30 p.m., Mr. Chair.
Okay, great. So motion to adjourn at 6:45 p.m. Moved by Councillor Lang, second by Deputy Mayor Jaworski. All those in favor? Meeting is adjourned. See you all at 7 o'clock.